Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. My guest today is Kevin Walker, President and CEO of Duquesne Light Holdings. With more than 30 years of utility experience in various roles at multiple utilities across the country, he's also a U.S. Army veteran. Prior to joining Duquesne Light as Chief Operating Officer in April 2020, Kevin served as the Senior Vice President of Customer and Operations Services and Nuclear Decommissioning at Southern California Edison. Today, Kevin and I are talking about his commitment to being a trusted partner and leader in helping the Pittsburgh region transition to a clean energy future. We talk about digital transformation, a customer-focused leadership strategy for utilities, and the future of utility customer experiences. I know you'll enjoy our conversation. Kevin, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from Pittsburgh. How's your day going?
Yes, it's going well. Thank you so much. It's summer in Pittsburgh. It's beautiful. We've got lots of bridges and streams and lakes around. It couldn't be happier.
Oh, great. Oh, great. So you have been in the utility industry for a really long time. This is a really tough industry. It's a really important industry. Can you give our audience the brief background on how you became CEO of your current role at Duquesne in Pittsburgh and where you got your start?
Yeah, I have been in for over 30, almost 32 years now. And I'm a graduate of West Point, was in the military for 6.5 years and served in the first Gulf War. And when I left the military, I wanted something that was really a selfless sort of role that was really important, that had all the elements of the military teaming, and you could really be proud of what you accomplished. And I found the utility space, and haven't looked back since. It's been a great journey, and I think I've played almost every role there is to play in the utility space. I was a lobbyist for a while. I'm an engineer by trade, so I've done power plant operations. I've done a steam system when I was in New York City. I was involved in 9/11 when that tragedy happened, trying to restore power back at ground zero. Matriculated through 6 different utilities, and Duquesne Light has been my last and best utility, where I ascended to the CEO role. So I'm excited about being able to lead and apply all those experiences through multiple utilities here in this role.
So everyone has an opinion about utility companies, about the challenges facing the energy grid. I'd love to just hear where you stand on some of the modern challenges facing this country, as far as just like where we're at, just from your perspective with the role of the utility company and the modern customer. I know it's a very general question, but I think we need to start with just kind of your worldview on this important subject on where we stand.
Yeah, well, I go back to 32 years ago. We weren't having the discussions we're having today 32 years ago, I can guarantee you. Nor did we need to. The system was pretty one-way flow from big generation facilities to load center customers. And speaking of the customer journey, I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we called our customers, meters or endpoints, so inanimate objects. Like, we just weren't really focused on that human quality. Now we've evolved through ratepayers, which is also not a very flattering way to call your customers, to customers and consumers and prosumers. So we've gone on this journey as utilities, and I have to say that we're not blazing the trail ourselves. There's plenty of other industries that have been ahead of us, and we're learning from those industries. But right now, customer centricity is the thing that successful companies, utility companies, are embracing to take us into the future.
Absolutely. So as far as digital transformation, I mean, a lot of companies today are obviously on their journey through COVID. It really enriched the life of the digital customer. Many companies met the customer in ways that they weren't used to prior to COVID and in some unsustainable ways. Were there major changes to your business throughout COVID with the digital transformation you were on?
Yeah, absolutely. COVID was a game changer. Things that we thought we couldn't do, like if folks couldn't work from home on a regular basis, we had to do, and it happened overnight. We deployed, 90% of the software we needed and hardware for our employees to work from home almost overnight. Our customers had a resistance, and reasonably so, for us going into their premises and being, in close proximity. So we had to do a lot more things remotely. We were already on that journey. I would say COVID accelerated that, and we're actually seeing the benefits of it today.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say some of the benefits are? Are they efficiencies you've created internally? Is it a happier customer? What does it look like?
Yeah, so I think we're stratifying our customers in the ways that we haven't been before. Certainly understanding, our customer journeys and our customer personas. If you think, for instance, we've now looked at our customers in their segments of population, where they live geographically, a lot more knowledge about their economic standpoint, their propensity to adopt new technologies. And so you think about that now, not only do we have three customers like we used to, we used to have residential, industrial, and commercial customers. Now we have maybe 20 to 30 customer personas that we're trying to meet their needs. So there's a certain segment of customers who has an appetite to give them the best, the latest, the greatest, the most customer service based tools, and we're now able to give them those tools, and COVID really accelerated that.
What are some of the key customer experience initiatives that are on your plate right now?
Yeah, I mean, self-service, digitizing things. I mean, we did some, demographics of our customer base, and even some of our customers who are more senior, they love to have apps at their fingertips. They love to be able to get information in the self-serve, at least as a first entry point. And so it's a win-win. So it's meeting them in channels and in ways that they prefer. It's also lowering our costs, so we don't have as many people that actually have to, interact with our customers unless we absolutely have to. So some of the things like turn-ons and turn-offs. That's a seasonal thing. When kids move into college, when they move out of college, you can predictably see there's going to be an uptick on people turning on and turning off their power. When you can do that remotely with a click of a couple of buttons on your phone, it's much more user-centric. It's much more a better user experience, and it's easier for us to deliver that service. So things like that are becoming the way we do our business to satisfy our customers.
One of the challenges for, I think, this country and with utilities is that, utilities aren't like a traditional brand. They don't have to compete in the way like an Amazon or a Coca-Cola because historically customers don't really have the luxury of choice. Some customers are choosing to go off the grid or use alternative power sources. Would you say this is true? If yes, how does this implicate your leadership or your business?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true, and I love how you say it's not in a traditional sense. Like we don't have other utilities vying for our customers, but customers do have choice. We are a T&D business, transmission and distribution business, so we don't generate our power, but we buy power on behalf of our customers, and our customers can choose the types of power that they want us to buy. If you think about people who are more price sensitive, which happens to be most of our customers, they just want us to give the cheapest and most reliable power that we can buy. But there's some who are really committed to the planet, and they are interested in being able to purchase power that is sustainable and green. And so being able to, again, meet those customers' needs through our power purchases, through the quality that we deliver, those who want to do rooftop solar, those who want to do distributed energy resources that are generating at their source and maybe sell back to the grid to make money, we have to facilitate all that stuff. So a robust, modernized grid that has visibility and is data driven from end to end, from the customer end to the generation source, is what we're trying to build. We don't have that today, but we're building that very, very quickly to meet our customers' needs.
Right, Kevin, because customers want transparency, right, around where did this power come from? Is it clean? Is it wind? Is it, all the different places that we source energy? And it just seems like this is not a very transparent process. It's really complicated. So how do you take something so complicated and simplify it for the consumer?
Yeah. It is very complicated, and I think a lot of our customers want an easy button, right? They don't necessarily want to understand all the inner workings of the utility business. And it starts with trust. If we gain our customers' trust that, like, hey, we're looking out for your best interest, we're going to share the things that you need to know to make the most qualified decisions. We're going to give you our advice on that, and you can trust our advice. It's not about us being successful, it's about you being successful as our customer. The more people can trust their utility and other interveners, there's people out there, I mean, it's an ecosystem, right? So it's not just the utility, but I'm speaking from the utility standpoint. The more we can build that trust where people who want the easy button can say, like, yes, I trust you, give me the easy button, give me the lowest cost, give me the greenest energy, give me the most reliability, the better off everybody's going to be. So we're spending time to try to earn that trust with our customers so that we can do that on their behalf. There are some customers who are very sophisticated, who want to know all the details and actually know a lot about the business, and we want to be able to engage with them too. So it's really, again, being able to meet customers where they are, to give them what they desire. And some of it, many of it, is like, if I trust you, I'll give you the easy button to help me manage my energy needs.
That is so important, Kevin, that you create trust. But the process of creating trust is complicated. How does a utility do that? From my perspective, where I am in California, like, people don't really trust the utility companies, arguably. So, like, how
Right.
do you build that trust when for many consumers the trust is gone?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think once you've dug a hole, it's very difficult to get out of it. We have the luxury, and we don't take it for granted here in the Pittsburgh region, of having reasonable trust with our customers. And again, we don't take it for granted. We want to make sure we continue to build on that. It starts with, one win, one at a time, right? So you have to listen to your customers. You have to do what you say you're going to do. And customers have to see that you're thinking about their best interests versus your own best interests. If you can put those three pieces together, I think you can slowly, even if you're in a hole, you can slowly dig yourselves out of a hole. And if you're, kind of at neutral or even a little bit to the positive, you can continue to build on that going forward. But there's no magic recipe. You have to, do what you're going to say you're going to do. You have to listen, and you have to make sure that the customer sees that you're looking out for their best interests.
So it's always refreshing to hear a CEO say that they want to listen to their customers. What are the ways that you listen, that you aggregate feedback, or that you personally even go into the contact center? How are the ways that you get feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of surveys of our customers. I do listen to calls on a regular basis, and the good ones, the bad ones, and the ugly ones. It's really important to get a holistic view of how our customers think of us. Sometimes, folks can get tunnel vision and only listen to the things that are very flattering and favorable. I get the waterfront. Customers write to me directly and express mostly their concern and things that they want to have improved, and I respond to them each individually. So it's a high touch, and we have the luxury of doing that. Again, we're a pretty contained utility where I can travel to my whole service territory in a day or so, and that's great, and that gives me a much more personalized, connected relationship with my customers and my community. And so all those sources that are inputs for us to listen to our customer, and we get really good feedback, and we've evolved our thinking because of it.
Utility providers don't have to be customer centric. We've established that. They still will have customers because there isn't that much choice. Some would argue that utility companies, it can be seen, at least in states like California, like a monopoly. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's what I've heard when I started researching into this business. So what advice would you give these other utility companies that perhaps don't see what's on the horizon, that don't see that they do sell a commodity and eventually they could be disrupted? What advice do you have for them, if you agree with
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I worked in California. One of the six utilities I mentioned was California. And, I think the challenge is most real in places like California. I mean, the sun shines a lot and the wind blows a lot. And the duck curve in California where, there's times a day where, energy prices are, almost free because of the generation sources and how cheap they are. So there is a challenge to the utility model there. I think it takes a village. I mean, the regulators have to make sure that they're working with the utility companies to understand that they have a value proposition that they have to present to their customers, and it can't be a must take. Community choice aggregation is something that has started in California when I was there. And basically what that is somebody comes in and says, like, let me buy your power for you. Don't trust your utility company. I can give it to you cleaner, cheaper, and greener. And lots of folks are adapting and adopting that, and it's cutting the utility out of the process. So realizing that there's a real competitive challenge in California and other places should be enough of a bully pulpit to say, like, hey, I've got to get on the other side of this thing. And I know that there's many utilities. I mean, I meet with the CEOs across the country, and they're getting it. The question is, are they getting it fast enough? And are they really listening to the customer's needs? And it's a challenge. But I do believe that there's a recognition that you have to do that. And we're not 30 years ago. We're not your grandmother's or grandfather's utility anymore.
Right. I mean, there are pressing challenges. There are a lot of disruptors that are coming in, like Ohm Connect, who I've learned about, that they are actually paying consumers to turn the air conditioning or the lights off at certain times. They're incentivizing consumers to take the pressure off the energy grid. As a CEO, what are the ways that you lead your teams to be customer centric? How do you impart this customer centricity to all of your people that work for you, but also the people that work for them that work for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm the luxury of having been a chief customer officer in my career. So that was my primary job to focus on that, and so I bring that with me as the CEO. And so I'm always focusing the team on customer centricity and eccentricity. And I think about it, big C, little c. Little c is where it stays kind of isolated to customer. So all these things are changing, but they're changing within the customer group. When I think about big C, customer centricity, it's chasing across the enterprise. And that's where, being the CEO, you can actually facilitate that. That means the operations group has to change to be more customer centric. The finance group has to change. Not only the customer group has to change, the communications group has to change. The entire organization has to go on this journey together for the big C, customer centricity change. And so we have established our strategic imperatives. I've been here a year and some months, and I did this probably 6 months into my tenure. And one of them is customer centricity. So it is something that is on the radar scope. Every senior leader in this organization knows what it is. They know how they can impact it. And we're on this journey together to improve around our customer centricity.
So you said facilitated across the business. What does that look like? Would you be able to give us some examples? What does that look like when finance or operations, they can do better? How do you facilitate that?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. In most utilities, have a storm role, some kind of response to some sort of event. Obviously, resiliency is part of utilities' mission, and we're getting more floods and more storms and more weather events, and in California where you are, more wildfires and those kinds of things. And so you have to respond to these emergencies, and having a sensitivity of responding and understanding the impact to the customer is how that shows up, right? So that now moves into the operations group. Not only am I out there just kind of putting lines back together to get the most customers back, but I'm thinking also about the impact while they're out of power. So what can we do as a utility to bridge that gap while people don't have the power to when they get it back? And in the past, we've just said, like, that's kind of the nature of the business, and we'll work as hard as we can to get the power back. But what happens in between those times is really not as much of our concern. We're moving and have moved, many of us and many utilities, to thinking about what happens in the middle. And that really takes the entire organization, the operations, the finance, the customer group, to think about that. So that's just an example. And I know utilities across the country are doing similar things.
Thank you for those insights, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity to talk customer experience with you. And of course, there's always innovation on the other side of a very challenging time. And now it's time for the rapid fire round, where we get to know you a little better. First question. Kevin, what is your most embarrassing work moment?
Yeah, I have to say it was once I was caught on a hot mic. I thought it was not being recorded, but it was still being broadcast. And fortunately, I didn't say anything I regretted, but it was a close call there for sure.
Right, that's anybody's worst nightmare.
Yes.
What is the best music or band of all time?
Oh, geez. I would have to say James Taylor. I'm a closeted guitar player, and I love just the strumming on the guitar. And James Taylor has tons of great songs that he has.
That's awesome. And what is one tool that you used for personal development during COVID that you could share with us?
One tool for personal development. Yeah, I read quite a bit, all of these like bestseller books. But one in particular I read was about leadership and development, and it was by I don't know if you've seen that TV show, but it is based on Wooden's book, Pyramid Principles. So that's a book I read, and I thought that was a good developmental book.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Um, Last question. If you had $1 billion, what would you do with it first?
Yeah, I thought I was going to have it in this last thing that we went through, but I didn't win, so I'm still not a billionaire. Figure out what charities that I wanted to give a lot of it to. I mean, I'm passionate about lots of causes and have been involved in lots of community activities throughout my career and life, and so it just be figuring out how to sprinkle that through those charities to make sure they could continue to do the great work they do.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, this has been really insightful. I appreciate your time and I hope you'll come back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been a great.
Thank you, everybody. You've been tuning in to the Modern Customer Podcast. We will see you next time.